Filet au poivre sounds fancy, maybe because it's French, but it's really a pretty simple steak dish with a cracked pepper cream sauce. We'll serve ours with some garlicky sauteed green beans, something nice and light to go with that heavy buttery cream sauce. I think you're going to want to give this one a try. The typical steak for filet au poivre would be, well, of course, filet, beef tenderloin, filet mignon. I've got two roughly 8-ounce steaks here that I'm going to very liberally season with salt. You can do this even up to overnight, just pop them in the fridge. Next up, I'm going to add some neutral oil to a skillet over high to medium-high heat and make sure our steaks are as dry as possible so that we can attempt to get a nice crust in the bottom of that skillet. Once they're nice and dry, just go ahead and add them to that really smoking hot oil and press down to get a nice seal and sear on the bottom. We're going to cook them for 2 to 3 minutes on that first side until they've got a nice crust developing, at which point we'll go ahead and give them a flip, see how things look. Not the prettiest crust I've ever achieved, but I'm focusing on moving cameras, lights, and other things, so I'm going to give myself a B- for that. Anyways, we're going to park these in a 425-degree oven until they cook to our liking, about medium to medium rare for me. In the meantime, we're going to very coarsely crack some black pepper onto a plate. If you don't have a nice coarse pepper grinder, you can just use the bottom of a skillet or cast iron pan to crack the pepper into large chunks. Hey look, our steaks are cooked. It took about 8 minutes in that oven, but the size of your steak will cause your mileage to vary. Mine's cooked through to 125. It's going to rest up to 130, 135. I'm just going to dump out a little bit of that excess oil, and now it's Henny time. I'm adding 1 airline bottle that's 50 milliliters of Hennessy to the skillet, and then flame on. You don't have to do this. You could just let the alcohol burn off naturally, but hey, it's flashy, so I gave it a shot. Make sure you have a fire extinguisher handy, and don't consult me if you burn down your house. Anyways, once that alcohol is mostly cooked off, we're going to add in about 2 teaspoons of our freshly coarsely cracked pepper to allow those flavors to come alive in the alcohol and oil. Then we'll add in about 1/2 cup of heavy cream, a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, and just get to whisking. You want to make sure you scrape the sides of the skillet, scrape the bottom, get all of those little bits of flavor down into that sauce. When you're using a few ingredients, every one of them needs to matter. Finally, we will finish this sauce with 2 tablespoons of cold unsalted butter, which we'll just very generously swirl in there over the heat. Once it is beginning to work its way in there, we can go ahead and kill the heat. There should be plenty in there to melt it. And of course, we wouldn't let our resting juices go to waste. Go ahead and drizzle those in, thoroughly combine, taste for seasoning, and set your sauce and steaks aside. Finally, we'll turn to our side dish, which in this case is going to be some steamed green beans that we're then going to saute. And I tell you, don't be afraid to use the microwave in the kitchen. Just pop those bad boys in for 3 minutes until they're nice and tender. Then we'll add a tablespoon of butter and a tablespoon of olive oil to a skillet over medium-high heat. Add in our mostly cooked green beans. Season them up with salt and pepper, of course. And then, depending on your taste, I'm adding 4 crushed cloves of garlic. If you're a garlic fiend, you can add more. If the flavor is too pungent for you, then just maybe add 1 or 2. Give that a stir so that garlic cooks. It's only going to take about a minute at this point. And then finally, I would normally recommend using a lemon, but I only had a lime on hand, so I'm juicing about 1/2 of lime in there. We need that acidity to go along with our fat. Now, let's plate this up. We've got those nice citrusy, garlicky green beans perfectly sauteed. I'm going to slice my steak and tell you that I may have gone a little over medium here, but also it's not blushing quite as much as it will be once it's had a couple minutes after it's been cut. You'll see what I mean here in just a second. I'd say not a bad job. It's a tenderloin, so it's going to be tender and juicy no matter what. We'll lay that out on a plate, and already you can see it's a little bit more rosy than it looked at first glance. And we will now spoon over our pepper and cream sauce. You don't want to douse the steak, but you definitely want a good amount of it. You want to be able to get some in every bite. I'm putting a couple spoonfuls down over my steak, and I'm going to garnish it with a few chives. You could, of course, use green onions. I would endorse that. And some more fresh cracked pepper, and a little pinch of flaky sea salt as a final garnish. And that is filet au poivre with garlicky green beans. Let's give those beans a try. I love this method because it is A, super fast and super easy. They still have a nice little bite to them because we didn't overcook them in the microwave, and that garlic is so wonderful in that butter. Look at that blushing steak, that really flavorful cream sauce with just a hint of sweet and smokiness from the cognac. Let's get a bite of everything all together here. That garlic from the green beans, that tender steak, that punchy cream sauce. And I'm telling you, you're just gonna have to give me a second. I'm having a moment here. This is an amazing bite of food. It's a little indulgent. It may not be the kind of thing you can afford to eat every night of the week, but I'm telling you, for a special occasion, or if you want to treat someone, make this, and I think they'll be quite happy with the results. As will you, as long as you go and make something delicious.